Thank you for joining Anne's Art Desk. These videos are brought to you by the City of Palo Alto and the Palo Alto Art Center Foundation.
So last week, I'm right here, by the way. Last week when we finished, there were these big bubbles here, and I didn't really like these spherical round things. So I just made it a landscape after we turned off the cameras. So I wanted to show it to you. Whatever. Not my favorite painting ever. I'm still going to try and fix this. Hang on. Okay, there. That's where I am over there. Bye. Not great, but there you have it. So I didn't like it very much, and I added some other stuff. And you can always keep painting on acrylics; they're nice that way. But I kind of like the yellow gold cast. Anyway, I would probably paint over this picture because it's not really something I'm super happy with. However, today we were going to do 4 ways to abstraction. Sorry. And I have a bunch of these gessoed boards to work from, which is kind of nice. So can you guys think of ways that people generally abstract things?
Simplification.
Yeah, that's a good one. Make things simpler. What else?
Thinking in terms of shapes.
Yeah, exaggeration is a good one. Shape.
The negative and positive spaces.
Yeah. There's some good ones. How about
focusing on value? Focusing on value.
Yeah, working with the values is important. Often, if you look at Matisse, he uses pattern. And this is really common. And another really common one is what is it? Oh, exaggeration, simplification, pattern. There was another one I was thinking of. I'll think of it later. But these are all things that you kind of use as starting concepts for starting to abstract things, which is sort of interesting. I really like these ideas. And so if you're trying to abstract something, you can just pick one and think, I'm going to exaggerate something about this image. Or I'm going to think about the shapes these images are, but let the reality of the image disintegrate behind the shapes. Or I'm going to do a value study of these images and see if something pops out that I should do. Or I'm going to flip the script and take a picture like this and make what now reads as a negative shape a positive shape. So all these ways are ways you can create a abstract. So I thought we would just sort of look at this painting and create an abstract right next to it.
Hey, Anne, you know how much I love pattern. What do you mean by an abstraction by pattern?
Oh, patterns often appear in abstract paintings, and I think I linked to a whole bunch of abstractionists. So just like using marks like this, or using circles, or creating an abstract that's just a pattern. I can send you some samples, but a lot of abstract artists work. Like I remember doing this exercise when I was a kid. Let me pull another sheet out, where I was told just to write the number 4 over and over again in different scales. And I was like, this is hokey. I do not understand it. But eventually I came to an understanding that there was a graphical image there that was developing over time, which was pretty darn cool. I really liked that idea. So that was pretty neat. Just to be sure, do you guys see something here that says it's recording?
Yes.
Okay. as long as it is recording, we're good. Because I'm not recording it some other way, so I just want to make sure. But you know, if you wanted to build a whole painting based on this idea of forms, you see that there's a visual pattern developing around this little, essentially hieroglyph we've chosen, and how that could become a pattern. You know, our minds are so quick at this that we could also say, "Oh, look, it's a fleet of sailboats."
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah,
It reminds me of like Squeak Bromoth or whatever her name is.
yeah. Which is really neat. Like, you know, this is the sort of doodling we were talking about last week, of just like letting your painting inform the path you're going to take on it. So letting it just be like part of your life. Just let it be like, oh, they were forms, but now they're sails. That's kind of cool. But I was thinking of just taking this and being over here. And something a lot of abstractionists would start with would be kind of a color palette. So we have an orange. And what's really sad here is I keep trying to have my palette in view, but I haven't quite figured out the tech for that yet. So we have an orange, right? And I think kind of important to the painting are some of the yellows. We have a lot of these kind of beautiful purples. These are the Clarkia. We have some really pretty, these are kind of ultramarine and cerulean mixed together. And then a whole boatload of greens. And they're kind of warm greens, so they're yellow and cerulean mixed together rather than yellow and ultramarine mixed together. So then sort of that kind of palette. That's a pretty palette, you know? That's pretty nice. And then like, you see how the background is that blue that appears in the foreground, it's just mixed down with a little bit of white. There we go. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for this painting. And I thought we would do it like 3 ways. Because when I think about 4 ways, that's too many. So just to like keep track of ourselves. Just to keep track of ourselves, let's say if we're going to do it 3 ways, we're going to think about, let's think about squares. Let's do one that's just non-objective, inspired. And let's do one that's fairly figurative, but where we flatten all the forms. So that's just to keep ourselves honest. That's kind of where I'm starting. 1 where we square all the forms. 2 where we just use it as a wild inspiration, and 3 where we kind of figuratively flatten it. And you guys can do this as well, because I just, rather than trying to share a screen or whatever, which seems to never ever work, I just put it up here so you can see it. I'm not just to like set a baseline. I'm not super happy with this painting. I just decided I needed a painting, and this is the painting that came to hand. It's also a painting I want to finish. I don't think it's finished, so I thought fiddling around with all these ideas might be useful to it for the finishing pattern. So if we square it all out and we decide, so do you guys like this idea?
Yeah.
You kind of have 3 ways to work this up. Any other suggestions for other ways or opinions on this?
Are you doing it all on the same canvas?
I don't think I have the room.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I think I would. I can't. You know, if you guys really want to do that, I actually brought this large canvas. You want to try it? Because then you would be able to see things as they go.
Just fit.
Would that be better? Let's see. There's my original. The original is probably going to fall at some point. But let's try it. How's that?
Okay.
So number 1 is going to be squares. And look how I left a little buffer here between the paintings. Yeah. Haha. How did we know that would happen?
What do you mean by square?
What?
What do you actually mean by square?
Oh, let me just show you, because maybe it's easier to show you. Here. So with squares, I would probably start with my most loveliest color, which is that orange. And kind of think about like Mondrian.
Okay. Got it.
And you're like, what are you doing to those poor puppies? They've never deserved it. So squares. And I just decided on squares not because I guess in my own practice I use a lot of squares. So it's not that weird that I would square something. But notice how there's already sort of oh, there has to be one right here. Sorry. There'll be one right here. Just for compositional reasons. Look how much better it looks with that one. So then I'm going to change up the game to a bigger brush, because this is a really big assignment for a short amount of time. So then what if we did something like this? And you should be aware that what I'm about to make is not going to be all that finished looking. It's really a conceptual exercise. But painting this fast is going to be super good for you. This will help you learn how to paint fast. So my initial attempt at a green was no good. There's a better green that's better. So I think that one of the most creative things I discovered about abstraction when I started doing it is that you get to design all of the time. Whereas when you do anything in the field, you design for the first few minutes and then you paint the picture. But with abstraction, you're always sort of making another design choice, and I really love that. Something you should also enjoy is that the paint is paint, and when it streaks out like that, maybe that's beautiful. Maybe you don't want to fix it. You want to think of it like watercolor, where things can happen that are fine with you. So now I think I want to change my color a little bit. So oddly, this is going to be kind of a figurative landscape in that it's going to follow the rules of atmospheric perspective, even though I'm squaring everything up the wizard. Which is kind of interesting.
How is it following the rules of perspective?
Well, like, see, I'm putting a darker, sort of brighter, bolder color in the front.
Yeah, okay.
Which kind of follows what I did here. And I'll put a paler, lighter green in the back. Wow, I already went through all of my yellow. That was fast. So that when you finish this and you called it Poppy Field, somebody might actually believe you. Instead of, hey, my kid could do that. Which they'll say anyway. So what I'm doing now is thinking about what the composition is. And this is really important for painting. And something about abstract painting that's kind of neat is you can figure that out ahead of time, or you can do it as you go. And see if I make this sort of indication that things have a light side and a dark side, it becomes more figurative. And hence becomes more like kind of with this sense of I believe in her, right? I believe she knows how to paint instead of my kid to do that. I do think that when I am out and about painting, I do think that people who are about 8 or 9 or 10 are often they're some of the best people to know how to paint. Like they walk up to me and say, you know, that gray brown you're putting there ought to be more pink. It's not red enough. Gosh, wow, have you had paint drying? No, it's just not red enough. So I think that people have a natural color instinct, and that age group is really good. So I think that if I put sort of a blue sky in there, I have a bucket of water here for washing. And right now I have to wash because I really want to change my color drastically. So just I try to narrate my paint hygiene to you. So even though you don't see it happening, you can still have a sense that it is happening and that it's an important part of the process. Okay, but look what happens when I add this pretty sort of sky blue. All of a sudden, this very abstract painting sort of snaps into, oh, I know what that is. Even though it's really, really, really abstract. What do you guys think?
Mm.
I agree. It starts looking like, well, you can use your imagination, right? It could almost be a town or something instead of flowers.
It looks like what?
It could be a town with buildings.
Yeah, I've noticed that these square paintings often get interpreted as buildings. That just tends to be where people's mind goes.
Yeah.
I posted a wonderful book onto my Google Classroom that many of you have heard me talk about before. But if sort of visual language and sort of meaning interpretation of images is a new idea to you, I really recommend reading the book. It only takes about 40 minutes or half an hour to read the book. It will change the way you think about looking at paintings and making paintings.
Which book?
What's the title again?
Well, picture this.
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It's like a children's book in a way.
it's one of my favorite books. But because I'm trying to offer sort of new curriculum to you guys, I'm not particularly interested in offering things that I know many of you have heard me say before. So I wanted to just put it up there on the classroom. If you're interested, you can read the book.
I ordered it.
Okay, good. It's marvelous.
I ordered it used, so it was pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's actually a really lovely book. The library does have it. You can just order it from now that we can order whole. You can order it from the whole shelf. Something that the painting might really need. I think in my original shot at this, I had put up some of these reds. Okay, I think that's probably enough time for this painting because when I think about doing 3 in an hour, it's probably enough. And I'm sort of quickly falling into mucking with it, which is not the idea. The idea is to move through these ideas quickly. There's sort of a nice square. So I find that anytime I'm moving from color to color that's about the same value and is next to each other on the color wheel, I don't have to wash my brush, I just have to squeeze it. But anytime I want to put something beautiful and bright up in a sky, or I want a very clean, very light color, I have to wash the brush. So just a word of advice to you is that there are times you have to wash your brush and times you can just fudge it. Like without washing my brush, I went from that bright white to this purple. And because the paint is wet, it's sort of auto mixing on the canvas, which I'm not really enjoying. Okay, next. Ready for another one?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions about this one before we leave it? This is kind of fun. I like the sort of rapid motion thing we got going here. So our next step is a non-objective interpretation of this. Oh, that works quite well because I don't feel like I'm going to knock it off. How's that?
Good.
Non-objective interpretation of this. I think for that you kind of just. I think I'm going to make it like about like that. And for that, I'm going to be a little bit more splooshy.
You're using a different palette, color palette?
I had mixed up that orange, and now I'm using the CAD red light straight. So that's probably why it looks different to you.
Are we supposed to be doing it too?
If you wish, and you're also welcome to be listening or watching and doodling. You don't have to be just watching. But that may just be me. I can't sit still. If I'm in any sort of class or lecture, I'm also doing.
What was this style called again?
The what? Oh, this is we're at non-objective.
Non-objective.
Yeah. So the idea is that it dissolves into sort of a Joan Mitchell scribble about this landscape.
That's the second one.
Yeah, this is number 2.
Okay.
So,
number 1 was called what?
The squares.
Square.
Oh, there was no name like, okay.
So Anne, what
Yeah.
is it about this landscape that is inspiring what you're doing?
Mainly I'm looking at the colors and sort of the frenetic nature of the landscape. And I'm also thinking in my head about Joan Mitchell. Who I think Joan, who's one of the students in this class, and she just, it's just so crazy. And I kind of like that crazy.
I like Joan Mitchell.
Yeah, she's cool.
I love her colors too.
Yeah, and her colors are sort of a celebration of Monet. Like if you look at her and put Monet's palette in front of your eyes, that's where she came from. And until I knew that, I didn't understand what her paintings were about.
We talking about the Joan Mitchell who has stuff in the canter?
Yeah, she's got stuff in the canter. She's cool.
Yeah.
She went and played with the big boys when they weren't into playing with little girls.
Good for her.
Look at this orange next to this yellow, next to this purple.
Beautiful.
A pure painting.
Love it.
Right there.
The purple's almost black.
I know the purple reads as black, especially on the camera, right?
Yeah.
There are wonderful pictures of Joan in her studio, in her cutoffs, and she has gallons of paint. And her palette literally was each gallon of paint had its own brush in it.
Wow.
And she was just, when she wanted orange, she picked up the orange brush. And when she wanted pink, she picked up the pink brush. I mean, she was painting on a whole new scale.
Joan Mitchell actually saved me. I ran into a friend introduced me to Putter Anderson of the Anderson collection at Stanford.
Uh-huh.
And I love the Anderson collection. We go there all the time. I said, thank you so much for donating your family's art. And she said, which one do you like the best? And I couldn't think of a single one except Joan Mitchell.
Okay, so you said
Joan Mitchell. It was like the only one I could remember.
All right. Wonderful. The Anderson collection, I keep meeting people who were preparators or conservators or curators of the Anderson collection. It's pretty neat. My mom is good.
Cool stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite the thing for this area. So now what I'm trying to do is sort of take the senseless thing I made and make some sense out of it.
What kind of sense? What does it make that makes sense about what you're doing?
I don't know, and this is where how I'm always saying that I think abstraction comes from the same place that poetry does.
Yeah.
I think you just have to poke at it. it's
So it
not
makes sense.
I know, but
But it makes sense to you.
yeah, it has to, like, I think of it almost as a musical chord. Like, what kind of music would it make if it were music? And there's also a point where this is my inspiration, but this is now my painting. Who cares about that? That's over. It's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
It's now about this.
There's a lot of energy in what you're doing there.
Yeah.
And what about the green? Would you
Yeah, I
add
was
green?
thinking about the green and thinking about whether I wanted the green. I was just remembering.
Oh, green. I like it like that.
Yeah. What if it had just like a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of punch up something or another?
Yes.
You know, and there you have it. Nobody looking at this would think field of flowers on a California foggy morning.
But they still might think poppy.
They might still think poppies because the poppies are such a strong player.
The red, I mean, the red is really a poppy red, and the same with the purple.
Yeah, the poppy and
Like the center
orange,
of the poppy.
the little calyxes are that color. The little podiums that the poppies sit on are that color.
It almost looks to me like one gigantic poppy
Yeah.
with that circle, that purple in the middle, in the center.
Yeah, I think something I often do when I am painting like this, and this is where the figurativism comes back in, is I'm looking at not positive and negative shapes, and I'm trying to make things a little less amorphous.
What did you say about positive, negative shapes?
Well, like, see how this kind of just muddies out? I don't like the muddiness. I want it to be crisp and clear and intentional. And that's where things start to work back into being a landscape or something like that, because I can't help myself. Wow, this pure blue is really beautiful, and I think I'm going to add some more.
Yeah.
So you don't have a sky.
I don't have a what?
A sky. Like in the squares, you had a sky.
Sky. Sky. Like clouds.
Like a blue sky.
Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I put in a sky, watch this. If I put in a sky, you'll instantly say, "Oh, it's a landscape." Yeah, it's incredible because the human mind is very, very fast at that kind of thing. Very fast. So as soon as I throw in a sky, you will instantly conclude it's a landscape. I don't know if some of you remember that I organized my acrylics box. That was the best hour I ever spent because I'm just reaching into this beautifully organized acrylics box.
How did you organize it? By color, shade, what?
I organized it by color. I put a grid of cut pieces of cardboard in there so all the paints stand up straight.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, neat.
I'll put a photo of it up on the classroom. It's really, really sweet. And it used to be just this huge jumble I could never find anything in.
That's what mine is.
Yeah. So then what I mean is if you put anything like this in, your viewer is going to immediately say, "Oh, what a pretty wildflower field."
Yes, I see that.
So I kind of want to break that back up. But that's kind of what the visual storytelling book is about, like how quick we are to make a conclusion. And sort of what the non-objective abstractionists did is they pointed out that and they tried really, really hard to stop making the conclusion. So Gerhard Richter did this. Cy Twombly worked really hard on this to be like, what if there was no figurative picture? What if it was just paint on canvas? Which is kind of neat. So that's 1 and 2 squares, non-objective. It's just some figurative flattening. So now we're kind of at this last one. And would somebody please tell me the time because my camera's too far away.
7:33.
Okay, we're doing good then. I'll take a deep breath. So if we do figurative flattening, this is kind of neat. I like this stuff. So rather than showing this is going to look a little Art Deco or something. Something I find that I often do when I repaint things is they become bigger. It's so hard for me to think of my words when I'm actually painting. And something that's kind of interesting to me about acrylics is it's really hard to paint over something that's been painted before. Fortunately, here's another one. So here we go. So I'm actually making the whole painting a little bit bigger. So this idea of flattening forms is something, if you look at Matisse, he's really, really good at this. And I sort of feel like he's the person who invented it. Maybe somebody else did it before him. But you know all those picture tables that the women are sitting at?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the perspective line should be like that, but he's made it like this for design reasons. He's kind of one of the first people who did, who sacrificed the reality of the drawing to the design requirement of the drawing. And I remember being a young whippersnapper and thinking, why couldn't he just draw the perspective like an ordinary person? Having absolutely no value for what he was inventing there. So those are just all the poppies put in. And then I want to wash my brush because I want to put some pretty light, beautiful things down.
You're zooming in, kind of, right? You're cropping.
Yeah, I'm cropping it to kind of like here, but you're going to see I'm going to make it even sillier than that because here's the sky. And I'm going to flatten the sky. I often find that just cropping may be enough for abstraction. Or is sometimes a good start for abstraction. Often if you've been out plein air painting or sketching, or you've been figure sketching, it's as if you were too zoomed out. And I find that a lot of strength in abstract design is brought into the picture by just making the subject matter larger. It's like we're shy to give the whole piece of paper to one thing. I don't know what causes that, but that's a really disgusting green. And the reason it's disgusting is I ran out of cerulean blue because I'm so fast. Here we go. Much better. So the reason it was disgusting, it was because it was low intensity, sort of a muddy color that was about the same value as the sky. It's not useful to me. So again, with the flattening of the forms. Oh, somehow I dipped it in the orange. I'm sorry. Happens all the time. Now I have to wash the brush. There, at least you get the sound effect of the brush being washed. I really can't emphasize enough, especially for you newbie painters, that having good brush hygiene, this is another thing that took me too long to learn. I could have made a lot more better paintings earlier, sooner, if I had actually listened to people and washed my brush. So now I want kind of a darker, richer green. So still sticking with the same ideas I've already essentially developed. And I still, as I'm always saying, I want my colors to be saturated. I want them to be clean, pre-mixed, and saturated. And essentially, especially for this painting where I'm flattening the form, I'm putting the colors next to each other and fitting them together like they were mosaic pieces. Okay, well, maybe this one has a wet edge because that looks kind of weird. One of the difficulties of acrylic is that it's hard to manage your edges, so you got to do it right then because it'll be too late later. Like 10 seconds later, it'll be too late. Okay, so flattened forms. There's a lot more that can be done to this that I would still consider keeping it in the abstraction field.
What would you do?
Sorry, it's a chopstick. These things happen. And I'm essentially just making a place in the picture for my the next layer of paint to go because the paint is so wet and soupy. The ideal thing for this would be one of those paint shapers or a spatula from the kitchen. But I've been told that even though my studio is now at home, I may not use the spatula from the kitchen. Okay. Chopstick is now a paint tool. And what I want is some really cool color that kind of contrasts. And this is where abstraction can really help you. You don't have to use a green. You can use pure blue. And you don't have to use a brush. So this is where things get really funny. Something I love to do with a brush, let me just do it here, or with a palette knife, is I will actually turn the painting rather than the knife. This is a really nice way to palette knife paint. To see when the painting is on the easel, I don't have a lot of degrees of freedom to put the paint down. But when I'm literally just holding it in my hand, I can get all the way down here to the bottom. And just move all the paint around the way I want it to. I might use a different brush. Oh, let's see.
I like it.
Yeah, do you like that?
Yeah, I like it too.
I'm sort of faffing around for a different brush here. Here we go. And then even if you do this like, see how just this little disc of paint tells a lot that says, they're poppies. They're abstracted poppies, but they're still poppies. So they're flattened. There's no like dimensionality to them. They're sort of boring. Something that you could do to spice up the painting is this other concept of like pattern, which I said I would talk about a little bit. So here's a good moment for it. Because the painting obviously needs something. It's so boring. So here's some pattern. Pattern can, sometimes I do it. Sometimes you can do it like this.
What are you doing? It's hard to see.
I'm just smudging out those little dots with my finger. So making little round dots of green, but with my finger. The other thing you can do for pattern is, I love this technique. This is lovely. Scrape in. And something about abstraction that's cool is that it can be really whimsical. Like you've already let go of what's real. By all means, put little circles everywhere. And
Are you scraping paint off?
What? Yeah, I'm graffiti. I'm doing what's called graffito. I'm just taking the paint off. You can always explain a lot of things that you didn't mean by calling it something like morning dewdrops. And see then where the paint is drier, it's harder to work with. You know, scritch, scritch, scritch. Then it starts to get figurative if I start caring about whether it has foreground, background, light, dark. That kind of thing pops up pretty fast. And it starts becoming a fairly realist painting if I start doing funny stuff like that. I'll send you a picture of my box. If you have my Instagram, you can look at it there too.
I enjoyed seeing the Instagram posts about the S you made for Black Lives Matter. That was cool.
Oh my gosh, that whole thing has turned into quite a thing. But here's another thing you can do. You can like show light and dark, but not get like realist about it. Just show that there's something. And look how kind of much more fun the picture becomes with this. Just a little bit. And then another thing I might do that would still be flattening the form, but still be kind of cool. Once again, I've washed my brush because I want to change colors. I really love these pinks that are everywhere. Actually, I think they should be purple. And I really want them to be purple. I want you to see they're purple and not black, so I mixed in a little bit of white. So something that's neat about a bristle brush is you get paint all over it and it has two strokes in it. Watch this. One. Now if I try to use the same side of the brush, I get smudgy strokes. But if I flip it, I get a clean stroke. I gotta say that this whole thing, this one is bad. It's to go to the principal's office. It's just there are compositional reasons it's not working. So it's off, and we can very easily just paint something else. So I gotta say, one of sort of the guiding principles to me of painting abstraction is to be having fun. And rather than angsting about, oh, that one was wrong, just wipe it off. As soon as you notice something's wrong with your painting, fix it. Don't like think, oh, I can live with that. You can't live with it. And if you and if you then feel like I still can't live with it, then you do another painting that maybe you can live with. Because the idea is to paint early, paint often.
I've been painting on top of paintings on top of paintings for a long time.
Actually, I've had really bad luck with that. And I tend not to do it anymore because I've had paintings that I have stole and I have had to take back and repaint. Don't do it. Just get a new piece of canvas.
I asked a friend when she knew that the painting was ready. And she said, when it sells.
Yeah, when it leaves your studio. I was teaching illustration to a bunch of third graders this year, and they were being really, really, really perfectionist. And I said, when your illustration is due? And they're like, no, Miss Ann, when is it due? I said, when is it done? I said, no, it's done when it is due. Illustrators are done when the work is due. They are not done when they think it's perfect.
That's what Lorne Michaels says about Saturday Night Live. He says the show doesn't go on because it's ready. The show goes on because it's 11:30 on Saturday.
Yeah. They thought that was funny. So look how quickly, as soon as I put any sort of modification back here, they're like, oh, look, now she's putting in an atmospheric perspective. I don't know. It's hard to get away from it. It's hard for me to paint something that is not a landscape. That's a pretty silly landscape. Obviously not very good at this. I do like this stuff though. I could probably do this all night. The other thing you could do for this painting that would help it, I think, drop my palette knife in the purple. It's like this. And this is something I would either have to do like this or hold the picture.
It's starting to look less abstract to me.
I think the more you fiddle with this kind of thing, I'm going to link to N.B. Hartley, who does these. She's a local person. Her name is Nancy Hartley. That's her art name. She's a local artist, and she does these really wonderful abstracted landscapes. And in fact, I think what I'll do is just link to a lot of my favorite abstracted landscape people who somehow have managed to find a place to occupy in the painting world that is both landscape and abstract. So of course they're my favorite people. People like Wolf Kahn. I'll post them for you. Brian Rutenberg. They're all awesome. I think Wolf Kahn just passed away. These would work better if I was actually drawing a form that I had drawn flat, but now I'm sort of extemporizing in retrospect. It's not working. Okay, I have another exercise. You guys want to see it?
Yep.
So that was all three. You want to see all three at once? So we have these two where I just squared the forms and kind of kept them real. Let's see, you can't see it. Sorry, I have too many things in my hand. Let me wet painting. Okay, so squared the forms, kept it fairly real otherwise. And now I can actually, since the painting has dried a little bit, I can do what I meant to do here. So there's that, squaring the forms. And then this last one, which you just saw. So that's sort of the three of them. So they all come from the same source material. And for me, but they have a very different feel to them. And you can do this exercise as well with any art thing you have in your life. You can do it with a postcard or a picture of your dog or whatever. Don't do it of your dog. Usually pictures of dogs are not high contrast enough to do a really good painting from. But find a painting or take like a Matisse or something and abstract it different ways than Matisse did after you copy it once. Very, very neat abstract exercise. You can also just start your homework with the idea of, I'm gonna start with something like, I'm gonna make some big circles. And then I'm gonna paint a painting based on that sort of initial scribble. And just sort of follow it where it goes. Or I'm gonna think about birds. Think about birds. And I'm gonna paint a painting where maybe I'm listening to music about birds, like the lark arising or something. And while I listen to the music, I'm gonna think about birds and I'm gonna paint something that's about birds. It's abstract. I mean, these things can just go on and on. All right. Trying to find places, safe surfaces to put wet paintings, which is always fun. And then I thought, do you guys like this idea? I thought I might, let me try it. Let me take this one down. I thought it might be fun to take a figurative sketch, which is not very good, and abstract it. What do you think of that idea?
Go for it.
Yeah, should I go for it?
Yeah,
Sure.
go for it.
Go for it.
Okay. We have a lot of figurative sketches in our lives. Like I figure sketch all the time, and I just don't really know what to do with them. So I thought I would try this. And I kind of want the same sort of pensive mood, but not as sad. I mean, she looks really sad. So just for general purposes, if you're painting skin tones, you should be starting with oranges, reds, blues, and some white or not some white, depending on who you're painting. But not starting with umbers, ochres, siennas. People are not earth toned. That's for rocks and trees. People are earth toned. They're warm colors. All right. And there should be one. If I wanted to sort of abstract her, one thing I might want to do is think about the composition a little bit more than I did now that it's sort of too late. And this is kind of where color theory and value meet, and they can help you. So see how I'm using my pure colors to paint her shirt, but I'm not really mixing the green that she actually is or anything. And I think these colors are making me shy away from the top of the canvas, which I don't really want to do. So I'm going to change the drawing a little bit. So she's actually going to be up here. The face is going to be up here. This is kind of what's neat about figure drawing. And if you figure draw a lot, you can kind of change things. This, when she was sitting here, this was a really long pose, which is why she has such a stable and centered pose. So something that's kind of fun to do, and I think I linked to the person I'm talking about right now, is think about people in terms of brushstrokes. So see if you can change her shape just by moving some brushstrokes around. So right now I'm drawing all the lights I see just in this light, just just a mix of the light colors on my palette, the yellows and whites. And that's kind of it for that. That's the lights. And then sort of the next step is to frame her better because I've painted inside her, but I haven't painted outside her. I tell students, you've heard this from me before, if you're one of the Studio A faithfuls, that you have two options to paint things right. Your first option is when you paint the thing, and your second option is when you paint the background. So watch. She snaps into shape when we paint the area around her. And this is where sort of thinking about Matisse and Flattening Forms, his paintings of figures indoors are just brilliant. I'm just filling in right now, which is something I tell people not to do. Paint with intention. Wow, it's a much better abstract than it was a study. It was not a good study. So I'm actually using some of the color mixes I made previously, which is kind of nice.
And why are you unhappy about the study? What
Well, it's
doesn't
got
work
drawing
for you?
errors in it. Her neck is shifted backwards and her neck is too long.
Uh-huh.
So her face got too small because I concentrated on it too much, which happens a lot.
Uh-huh.
When I'm painting, and also I see that as sort of a common error that people make when they're figure painting is they concentrate here. And as they concentrate, that gets smaller. So the fix for that is to paint the whole painting at once, keep moving around and moving your eyes smoothly and quickly over the shape. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
But to me, this is a much better little figurative sketch than that is. I like it a lot.
It's very good. Yeah.
Selma is really good at sort of Matisse pattern things. cold water paint.
I'm not really good. I'm just kind of blindly trying to find stuff, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, you say you're not really good at it, but a lot of being really good at something is just doing it, and you really do it. You do it a lot. You do it in clay and in paint, and hence are really good at it.
yeah, I do a lot in clay.
Yeah. Because I look at your clay pieces, and they're just as painterly as your painting pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's kind of neat is she needs a shadow color right here. And she needs a shadow color here where her hands are. And here. And look how rich and chromatic that can be. Something I do see that she needs that she hasn't got yet is this has to clip in. And this is where you can really draw. So I literally copied that pretty line of her arm.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that I also fixed the drawing error with her head. I brought it forward and made it bigger. Something I see is something like this. Something that's kind of neat about abstract painting is you can use your sumie hand, you can use your brush stroke hand to make these strokes, which is kind of cool. Again, coming back in with this stuff. And then I think some of this. So there's a little figure sketch for you. You guys have any suggestions or feedback on how to go about this? If you're speaking, remember to unmute yourself. Anyone? So one thing that I find that especially with figurative abstraction, be super conscious of the light dark pattern and the warms and cools. So see how she's very much depicted in warm and cool, in warm colors, and her surroundings and her dress are depicted in cool colors. And that's one reason the painting reads as figure. But there's a difference that I made a choice that she's warm and her background is cool. And keeping in mind that backgrounds recede, that's kind of a natural choice. It's not a very outrageous choice or anything, but it is a fairly natural choice.
Can you repeat that, Anne?
Oh, so I made the background and her dress very cold colors.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that part I got, but the last thing you said.
Oh, and her flesh tones are very warm, and there's a reason for that. That's so that you identify her as different from the background.
Uh-huh.
And that's actually fairly crucial, I think, to this sort of painting, that the figure has a different color world than the background or her clothing or the chair or whatever, because otherwise it's not going to make a lot of sense. Your viewer is going to be like, wait, what's that? So see how abstract she is and how much we still want her to be something. Please just tell me what she is. It's pretty much what most people think when they look at a painting. They want to know, what is it? What is that?
Yep.
It's funny. They just can't let go. And I think that's why there was a whole non-objective move in art, is because these artists wanted viewers and they wanted themselves to be able to let go of that idea of it is something. And they wanted to say it actually doesn't have to be something. It can also be beautiful paint or unbeautiful paint. It can also be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And all those things are equally valid, right? So see how each mark is kind of bringing my story forward. And when you are abstract painting, think about, what am I doing to make it better? Like, am I making it better? And what am I doing to make it better?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question. It's Kathleen. Is now okay to ask?
Yeah.
Okay, so where are the cools? Would you identify the colors of the cools?
Cool.
Okay.
This stuff is all cool green and blue.
Okay.
And then she's literally hot red and hot yellow. She's kind of the warmest colors on the.
Yeah, she is. And is that alizarin? Is that alizarin crimson on her shoulder?
Yeah, I think it's pure alizarin almost. And also notice that I'm using the intrinsic value of the colors to change things.
Are you mixing those colors? You said you're not mixing in some way.
Sometimes I'm mixing, but mostly I'm just like this is pure cobalt right here.
Okay.
I'm putting cobalt paint on the picture. And that seems to be fine, right?
Right.
You know, I don't know if she needs an eye.
No. No, take it out.
Don't put an eye. Maybe we just break her picture frame a little bit.
I think you're finished.
I think you're finished too.
Stop?
Yeah, you're done.
Okay, let's stop. There you go. Super fast field sketch.
Very nice.
Very nice. This is also where you can be like, this is a very Matisse thing to like add some other stuff. But I like this sort of Zen effect that I have going here, and I don't want the other stuff. I like that it's just brushstroke. To me, the other stuff feels sort of mannered and unwelcome.
And how often in your own painting do you go pure abstract, would you say? Rarely?
I have a whole series of abstracts on my website you can take a look at.
Okay.
I went through a whole series of abstract painting, and I love it. I love it so much. It's hard to do abstract small to my mind, and I don't have a big place to paint right now. So I'm kind of not doing them right now. But I sort of am, but I learned a lot. I don't know. The answer to that is complicated.
Yeah. It probably comes in phases.
Well, I also think that once you do abstracts, the abstracts inform everything you do.
Oh, yeah.
That it comes back into your painting, and that you see painting differently all of a sudden, which is pretty marvelous.
Would you call Georgia O'Keeffe an abstract painter?
You know, I used to think she was completely abstract and that her landscapes were made up, and then I went to Chalma and Abstractio, and they're totally realistic. Landscape actually looks like that. It's bizarre.
But she did use a lot of simplification.
She used a lot of simplification, but I thought, like, you know, there's a beautiful painting in the MoMA of these dark hills, and they're converging into a ravine. And I thought, wow, that must just be like her having a bad day, and this is an depression or a migraine or something like that. But then I went to Acrylics, and those hills are right there outside her house. She didn't make them completely realistic. They're abstracted, but they're figurative art. They look like the thing they are, but they're realistic. I still don't like the set of this arm. I don't like it at all.
I don't think the yellow helps that arm. I don't know. It's calling a lot of attention to itself.
Well, it's getting mannered, right? Because I'm fiddling with it. It's getting more silly. I think it has to be more like that, and this has to be more like this. Because when you fiddle with something, just the little amount of brushstroke you give it is going to change what the viewer perceives there. You're like, oh, the artist spent a lot of time right there. I should look right there. But that's not really what you meant.
Do you ever do the thing where you turn it upside down and look at it before you keep working on it?
Something that's kind of neat that happened by accident was this big white blob right here. And then I was like, well, I would erase a big white blob if it were there by itself. It's really glary. Here, this is better. But if it had another big white blob, I would be happy. So I put the big white blob there, and now I'm happy. There's absolutely nothing to stop you from painting on your painting plate.
That's good.
There you go. Some part of me wants this beautiful color to be over here somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is what happens when you turn it upside down. You start looking at it.
Works upside down. I don't know if it'll work the other way, but wow, yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
Yeah. Let's see how that looks really good.
Yeah.
Very. I
I'm
like
kind of sad here. There's a white spot right there that I don't want. But I matched the color pretty nicely. Hooray.
Sign it.
Okay, okay. Well, it's wet, so I can actually scratch into it.
Oh
That
yeah.
is so cool. Love that.
Yeah, Diebenkorn, yeah. Very beautiful.
Now David Park can go.
Yeah. Very nice.
Be jealous of me.
The whole feeling, the whole feeling of it is a lot happier than the one on the right.
I know. Well, this is Studio A. The lighting is terrible. The model was posing for like an hour. So she was tired. It was the end of the evening. My paints were messed up because I had been painting too much and I wasn't mixing color beautifully. Look, already it's better. Look,
Whoa.
already it's better.
Wow.
And it had some basic drawing errors that were terrible. And you really, once you see something is wrong with your painting, just fix it. It doesn't matter that much, but I really like this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it, please? Because now that I've put my laptop over there, I can't see it anymore. 8:11. Does anyone have any special requests or special questions?
I'll send you an email because it's not an abstract related question per se.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to put this over here so I stop filling with it.
What size was that?
That's these panels are terrific. These are 12 by 12.
12 by 12.
Yeah, and they're MDF board.
Okay.
Let me just write that here because it's hard to say letters over a microphone. They're MDF.
MDF. Okay.
Yeah, and if you go to Bruce Bauer, they have this stuff and they'll cut it for you.
Oh, really?
And then I gessoed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you also use gesso under watercolor?
Yeah, you can. No, you can't use gesso under watercolor, but you can gesso watercolor paper if you want. And that works great for like sample acrylic painting. Or
really?
figuring out something new. The other thing that's great to paint on are just these. They're archival. They're great. And they stack all really well. It's funny, I do a lot of paintings on these because I'm ever hopeful that I can send them to a gallery just as is. But that means I have giant stacks of paintings of these, which are not easy to see. So there's that. I don't know what to paint on. But these are just fine. Just canvas paper in a pad is fine. You can gesso heavy cardstock or Bristol paper, and that's fine. It's all fine. You can do anything you want. And don't love your babies too much because it'll just get in the way of painting. You gotta just paint. I mean, if you see something, paint it over. Don't try to preserve some special little brush stroke that you like at the time. So any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one, Kathleen. So if you have a painting of say, you've had it for 30 years and it might be, say, Kathleen as a child, and the whole painting was done, by somebody, and it's pretty bad, but the only good thing is the collar and the face. So I was going to try to get in and repaint parts of it. Can you do it with a 30-year-old oil or?
You have to know what it was painted with and paint it with the same stuff. So if it's an oil painting, only paint it with oil. Don't paint it with something else.
So if it's oil, you can use oil. Okay.
Yeah, and if you do a really, really bad job, it can become a tourist attraction. The other thing you could do is if you love this painting as is, you could cut away the bad parts and reframe
That's what I
it.
was thinking of. Yeah, cutting away the bad part. Yeah.
As long as you wouldn't offend like Great Aunt Maud who painted it for you, that's probably fine.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh wow, she's getting so much better.
It is. It was really terrible.
Look how wonderful she's come.
It's
Oh.
great.
Now she's too broad-shouldered for herself. Something that's kind of fun is to paint and change somebody's gender assignment in the painting.
Put a beard on her.
Well, something that's interesting is we have several models at the art studios who I think have changed themselves, or just have body builds that are of the opposite gender. And it's kind of interesting to paint them. I always enjoy it.
Have you seen those apps that you can where you can put your picture and show it as a man?
Yeah, I saw the meme where somebody did that to all the presidents.
I have 3 sons, and I laughed so much at their feminine side.
Didn't you always have daughters, right? You just look at what they might have looked like.
How do we get on your Instagram account to look at some of
Well,
your...
you have to have your own Instagram account, which is why I'm always trying to provide you with links to see the people I love without an Instagram account. But my Instagram is Ann McMillan Art, just like my website.
Okay.
So if you want to friend me on Instagram, I'll friend you back.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't spend all your time on Instagram. It's sort of too fun. But it is getting better. It's something I really love doing as an artist is just taking the pure color and using it. So let me write myself a note of what I have said I will do for you, because it's really hard for me to remember later. Landscape artists who are also abstractionists. Anything else? So landscape and abstraction going together. What else?
What is this? Topics to discuss?
Oh, things I said I'd put on the Google Classroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
I think that may have been what I said I would do. I'll think about other stuff. You can also add to the Google Classroom stream if you find things you like that you want to share with the class. That would be lovely. You can do that as well.
So to get on the classroom, all we do is go to that link you sent and then just create ourselves on there.
Yeah, and I sent you an invite and I sent you a sign-in code, and you can use either.
Oh,
method.
cool. Okay.
You can choose to sign in with the invite, or you can choose to sign in with just typing in the code.
Okay.
Make sure you write down your password, because I have 3 accounts, and 2 of them I'd like to delete, and I can't because I don't remember the password.
Do not let you delete your accounts. You know, something you can do is forward all the email from one account to another and never look at the other account ever again.
So did this info come via email to us, this invite and sign-in code?
It's pretty
Yes.
easy. If you make an account, if you create an account for yourself, you just look for Anne McMillan and you'll find her. Or
Okay.
is it a special account for you, Anne, for this class, or it's your regular account?
No, it's just my Google account. And then, if you just put in the ad code for this account, it'll pop up a link to this class, and then you add yourself.
The ad code being the number that the code is listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what the acrylic code is off the top of my head.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. I've sent it out several different ways.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's okay. I'll figure it out. Put in code. Okay, class code.
Any other questions, you guys?
What are we doing next time?
Would you guys like to share what you've painted in the meantime?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I have to go to gallery view or something. Somehow.
Yeah, who would like to?
There we go. Hi, everybody.
I don't know how to get you to see it.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's so cool. What Teresa did.
I can't see it.
Oh, neat.
It's not done yet, but
Yeah, that's very neat.
it's abstract, right?
Yeah, so
That is cool.
flattening all the forms and exaggerating features and all that good stuff.
Just figured out gallery view. Can you show me again?
Oh, gallery view. Up in the top right-hand corner, there's a toggle button for speaker view or gallery view.
I got it, but I missed Teresa's painting.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to see it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
It's cool.
Nice.
Love it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
I
so
tried-
cool. Anybody else want to share?
I tried to do more or less what Anne was doing,
Oh, neat. Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
That's
but I
really
didn't
cool.
have time. I was trying to follow.
Wow,
You know.
it's great.
My very representational abstract.
Excellent.
I like
And
it.
on the
Nice.
other side, I have what I had last time.
That's
Wow, that
nice.
looks like your clay. Wow.
Oh, that's nice too, Rachel.
What's the one in the top corner?
Oh, nice.
Looks a little like Stonehenge.
Bring it back. Bring it back. Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's so neat.
That's neat.
Nice.
I feel
Very
like
nice.
mine.
It's supposed to be like I don't know. My mom said this reminded me of Utah, and I tried to do like Joshua trees.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then a glass and a sun in an appropriate place, because the sun would have been like behind it, but it's in front of the rock instead.
Yeah. Very
It's
neat.
abstract.
And that one is very
Mondrian.
Yeah, Mondrian. Very cool. Let's see. Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. Did you just, how'd you do that?
Well, I was going for, are you talking to me? Yeah, me. Gerhard Riker, you know how he does those emoji.
Yeah. So you used a smoothie? Awesome.
Well, I used a credit card and
Nice
switched
colors.
it across that way. And then the last one I did was something like that.
Neat.
Oh,
Very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Anyone else want to share? Anyone? Okay. Oh, wow. What's this that you're showing us? Larry, what are you showing us?
On mute. That's a photograph that he took.
Uh-huh.
So that's a photograph that a friend took, actually.
Okay.
Now the idea is to do things like, well, that one's kind of
Wow.
in with.
Oh,
Now I'm trying
that's
to make
cool.
one squares or
Yeah.
triangles. So
That's really great.
Wow, you've been working.
So, Anne, you'll appreciate this. Last week I tried doing just the straight up doodle thing, but then I couldn't resist outlining it all in ultramarine.
That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
Like those things your kids used to do when you would just like do like that and then just color it in.
Yeah.
Kind of dumb, but it was fun to paint again.
Yeah. Very cool. I like it a lot. I don't think it's dumb. All right. Anyone have any last words to say?
Hopefully not last words. But
We're not quite there yet. Let's see, what are we going to do next week? I think we were actually going to look at a Matisse painting and talk about it. Or maybe a couple different Matisse paintings. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Sure.
If you wish to amuse yourself over the week, besides just doing homework, which is, take a sketch or any sort of visual prompt, a landscape, a photograph you've taken, a figure drawing sketch, whatever you want to do, and do some abstractions, whether it's, patterns, squares. Let's see, we had this nice little cheat sheet here. Patterns, simplify things, flatten shapes, exaggerate things, work with the positive and negative values, spaces, or do value. You can revisit all those ideas and see if you can come up with a nice abstract painting. I can't help it. I just have to paint. I gotta paint. So I do find that if you're doing figurative abstract or you want something to look real, air quotes, kind of relying on this value structure is really important. And push the value, make your lights light and the darks dark and everything rich. You're probably going to be pretty happy with the painting after that. And then next week, I'll try and post it to Facebook ahead of time or to the classroom ahead of time. I'll find a few Matisse paintings that I really love and post them ahead of time so that you can look at them on your home computer while in the Zoom class. And then I'll also try and have a nice Xerox here as well, just so that you have a visual stimulus and we don't have to share screens and other silliness. Because that just seems to never work quite.
Thank you for joining Anne's Art Desk. These videos are brought to you by the City of Palo Alto and the Palo Alto Art Center Foundation.